Hey, what's going on? I'm Tyler Wojciak, the host of Locked On Irish, and I'm here to tell you that Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price will each run for over 100 yards against the Arkansas Razorbacks on Saturday.
I'm Allison Hayes. I've been covering Notre Dame for more than 20 years here in South Bend, and I say this is an opportunity for that Irish offense to outscore the Arkansas Razorbacks and just get it done so the defense can hang in there and do just enough to get the win.
Hi, I'm Alan Pinkett, two-time All-American. Is it looking like it's going to be another long day for the Irish secondary?
Reggie Brooks, 1993 All-American, and I'm going out here and going to say right now, this defense is going to step up and be ready to play this week.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
Well, I'm Allison Hayes. I'm the host of this Irish Squad show, and we are going to get things going here against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Notre Dame with an opportunity to go 2-2 on the season, but it's not going to be easy there in Fayetteville. But first, before we get started, we want to give a shout out to our title sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, guys, we got a jam-packed show for you today. Notre Dame taking on Arkansas on the road, a noon kickoff. And tonight we're going to dive into some of those comments that Marcus Freeman made in both his post-game press conference after the Purdue win and on Monday, his press conference. A little surprising the way he handled it, his demeanor, all of that. We're also going to discuss where the defense goes from here and how the Irish contain Arkansas dual threat quarterback and the high scoring offense they have down there in Fayetteville. Plus, we're going to break down some key matchups between the Irish and Razorbacks and determine which team has the biggest advantage. All right, guys, shall we get started here? I'm going to read off a little bit of what Marcus Freeman said. He was defending his defensive coordinator, Chris Ash, in his Monday press conference. And here's what he said. He said, it's not what we are calling at this time or why we are calling it. It's why aren't we executing? It still starts with a buy-in. Everybody's got to believe that we have the answers. It's not Marcus Freeman should be calling the defense. We have the answers. We got to all buy in and execute this right. And I want to get your takes on this. Do you agree with Freeman that Ash's play calling is not really the problem? To me, it felt a little reminiscent of Brian Kelly, sort of putting it on the players. He said, we've got to execute. To me, execute means the players got to get it done. And he was standing by his defensive coordinator. Alan, what do you think?
Well, I'll start off by saying I really do appreciate that Marcus Freeman is very transparent. He doesn't give you any coach speak. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff he could just hold back and never reveal and maybe be like Bill Belichick on to Cincinnati, type of thing. But, I mean, he gives you a thoughtful answer all the time. And I would have to say that I'm in agreement with him. I think what he's alluding to is the players are playing fast, but they need to play faster. The players know their assignments, but they're being a little bit cautious. They're not, letting loose. And I think that the buy-in is there. It just seems that the guys are playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And so when he makes a call, whether it's he or Chris Ash makes a call, they expect him to execute it at full speed plus 10% more. And I don't think that's what he's seeing.
Well, I'm going to go a little different route here. I think it is, it's not so much the play calling as it is I don't think they're bought in. I mean, and I think it's more of the players not really, and not just the players, the coaches too, when he talks about why they're not executing, are you seeing the execution in practice? That would be my question. Are you seeing the execution in practice of what you're calling? And if that's not the case, there's a disconnect there between coach and player. So it is, you call what you call, and the players are supposed to execute it. But if they don't have the confidence in what they're executing, that's a problem. And that's not a player problem so much as it is a team problem, our team defense, because it requires the coach to disseminate that information to where the players can actually process it, understand it, and then go out and execute. Defense is a reactive, group. They react, and you don't want defenders thinking about what their assignments are. They need to know it, trust it, feel it, and go get it. It's a little bit different on offense because the play count, again, steps, and the defense is always reacting. And if they're a step slower because they're thinking about what they're doing versus trusting what they're doing, believing in what they're doing, and going out and execute. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a complete defensive. His D coordinator asked. I think it's an indictment on the entire defensive staff. It's like, why are these guys not executing? Are you giving them, and are you seeing it in practice? If it's not being executed in practice, then you're going to have a problem in the game because you play like you practice.
I'm glad you brought up that point about practice because that's sort of the mystery behind all of this, because throughout camp, the coaching staff was pretty open about the fact that the defense was ahead of the offense. As a matter of fact, they were considered way ahead of the offense. So that would lead everyone to believe that they were executing at a high level during those camp sessions. And then I don't know if everything changed in that game against Miami. Now looking back, that might be the defense's best performance of the season, going up against arguably the toughest opponent, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because especially in that first half against Purdue, they looked way worse in that half than they did at any point against Miami, which makes me think that they have lost confidence. I think they had some sense of confidence going into the season. They lose a tough game on the road against Miami, and then they got absolutely shredded by Texas A&M. And I think ever since that game against Texas A&M, they have been reeling on that side of the ball. Now, it doesn't help that Leonard Moore, their best defensive player, has been out and will likely be out on Saturday against Arkansas. He's listed as questionable. Looks like they're going to get Devontae Smith back, so that will help. But to me, I think that A&M game just rattled them to their core, and that first half against Purdue did nothing to help it. But they did kind of figure things out in the second half. Now, granted, they were up by 19 points at the start of or at least when the defense got on the field the first time because Notre Dame went out and scored in the opening drive. But hopefully they found something in those two quarters that gave them some confidence because they have not played like it at all ever since that Texas A&M game.
Well, and to then build off of that on Monday in his press conference, and I think what stood out was sort of his demeanor in the delivery of this information, if you will. He at times, especially after the game on Saturday against Purdue, they won that game. But in the press conference, you would have thought they lost. He looked dejected and frustrated. He just looked like a coach who was really frustrated with what his team was giving him at that time. So I thought that was really interesting. But on Monday, then what he said about meeting with the coaching staff and with his players, he said it wasn't comfortable, and I didn't want it to be comfortable. We got one of two options. We're going to do this and get our guys better and believe in what we're doing, or we will separate. And if we separate, it's not going to be good for anybody. So my question to you guys is then, how difficult is it to keep the team together when there's clearly just so many issues that are going on? You said, they all have to buy in. Well, how do you get them to buy in if they haven't yet? And we're now going into game 4. How do you get them to buy in at this point?
Well, I'll start. I'd be frustrated too if Purdue scored 30 points on me. But I think I've been on a team, in fact, at Notre Dame when I was a senior and I was a captain, and that team was not all together. And what it does is it destroys the fabric of the team. It's not good at all. You need to have everybody on the same page. Everybody's chasing the same goal. everybody wanting the W. And so it's either you got to do some soul searching and understand why you're there, and think about the prize that awaits at the end. I know that sometimes dejection comes in because you've lost 2 games, and it used to be you lose 2 games, there's no way you're going to have a chance to contend for a national championship. But that no longer exists with this playoff. So sometimes the coach has to lay down the law, and I know that these players respect him. But I always wondered how it was going to be when he had to really scold them with a cussing. Would that same respect be there? And I guess we'll just have to wait and see and find out. But usually when one unit is struggling, the other unit tries to pick up the pace. And so I think the offense has definitely picked up the pace, thinking, hey, we got to go score 40, but it's one of those uncomfortable things. And if anybody can fix it, I would say Marcus Freeman can fix it.
Well, I think it starts with, developing a rapport with the staff. I just remember the staff last year, those guys, kind of hung out. I mean, you could tell that they actually liked being around each other. And I don't know if, again, I'm not there. I'm not in the, in the building. So I don't see them, passing in the halls. But last year, I just remember, like I said, with the 2 coordinators, they would talk to each other about the games, and hey, here's how you can make it tougher on the defense. Or the defensive coordinator saying, hey, when you're doing this is something that gives defenses trouble. So that level of communication, I just don't feel like I get the same sense that that's there. And, and that plays into, what Coach Freeman was saying, make it uncomfortable, is that we have to get on the same page as a staff so we can go out and present a unified front to the players. Because if the players don't feel like the staff is connected and, bought in, that's very difficult to fake that. If your staff is not bought in and you're not presenting the information to the players, they're gonna look a certain kind of way at you. And as a player, I always look to the coach to kind of define, what we were to do, and having the confidence that they can disseminate the information. And you could tell when a coach was struggling with, how to communicate with players, because all people learn in different ways, auditory, kinesthetic, but you have to find out what works for your guys and deliver that. And I'm not so sure that's happening, because you can just see, and I go back to what Coach Freeman said, at halftime, the back end and the front end were not on the same page. And that was very telling to me that's a communication issue more so than a physical ability issue.
Right. And I think Ash always had an uphill battle once he got the job in terms of earning credibility amongst the entire locker room, because I got to imagine that's a pretty difficult situation becoming the defensive coordinator. So you're essentially the head coach of the defense, but the D-line coach has been there for several years. The linebackers coach has been around for a long time. And a lot of people thought the defensive backs coach should have your job. So that's just an interesting dynamic to start off with. And I feel like the best way to sort of get everyone to buy in would be a good start. And they had the exact opposite. They lose that tough game on the road against Miami. And like I was talking about earlier, they start off 0-2. So when you have that difficult situation to begin, and then you have an 0-2 record, I think I'm with Reggie. I think a lot of people on the team just aren't bought into the defense. And against Purdue, it didn't look like everyone had really bought in that moment either. So he is in a really interesting situation now going forward. But this could be the ideal opportunity for everyone to kind of see his vision and buy in, because this is a very talented offense that Arkansas has right now, led by their quarterback, Taylen Green. So if this defense can come out, they have a good game plan, they execute it well, that might be the thing that Ash needs to sort of get things back on track going forward. I'm not super confident that's what's going to happen here, but it is a good opportunity for him.
Absolutely. And, you talk about Chris Ash feeling a little bit of that heat, feeling some pressure. About hot seats, Arkansas's head coach Sam Pittman is about as hot of a seat as he can be sitting in right now. And he even addressed that this week about he's there, someone asked him in his press conference about the pressure that he's feeling. He said he couldn't feel more pressure. It's not possible because there's so much on him right now. They're sitting at 2-2 on the season with losses, though, that were pretty legit. I mean, they blew it against Memphis. They had an 11-point lead in that game last week and then let it dwindle there in the final quarter of the game, even had the ball with an opportunity to score and fumbled it. And that's been a big issue for them is fumbles. But they played against Ole Miss, which is a legit team. Pittman is 32-33 at Arkansas since 2020. That game against Memphis, they were a 7.5-point favorite and really let that one slip by. Interesting to know for Pittman, if he finishes out at 500 this season again, his buyout is $9.8 million. So I don't know. They might be letting him stick around a little bit longer to see if they can bring that money down.
Yeah, that's not that much.
10.8. That's true. Nowadays, it really isn't. And I'm sure there's some boosters there that'll chip in that money right away. Hey, we're going to come back in just a few minutes, but before we go, looking up next, we're going to talk some specific matchups here and how does this struggling defense right the ship with Arkansas dual threat quarterback Taylen Green coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. So for Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love and Taurean Price both delivered for the Irish in their win over Purdue. Jeremiah Love set a career high in rushing yards in a single game with 157, and Taurean Price scored 4 touchdowns on 10 total touches. When the pressure was on, they came through. No hesitation, no delay. And just like the Irish running backs deliver for Notre Dame, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. And today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. All right, my pick for today's show, give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 3.5 at home on Sunday against the Eagles. And if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, well, let's get into some of these specific matchups for the game. And, of course, the biggest one that everyone is talking about, Taylen Green, the quarterback from Arkansas. He's putting up huge numbers this season. But up against Notre Dame's defense, Notre Dame's pass defense comes in ranked at 103rd in the nation in pass efficiency. Notre Dame allowed Purdue's offense to throw for over 300 yards. And, of course, that comes on the heels of taking on a Texas A&M quarterback, Marcel Reed, who was also dual threat, and he threw for 360 yards and 2 touchdowns just the week before. So I know, Reggie, you said you think the defense is going to get it done, but Taylen Green is a beast. He passed for over 300 yards in 3 of the Razorbacks' 4 games so far this season. He also is 6'6", 230 pounds, and he's the team's leading rusher. He rushed for over 100 yards in 2 of Arkansas's 4 games. On the season, he's carried the ball 44 times for 360 yards. That's 8.2 yards per carry. Oof. And 2 touchdowns. And he'll be running against this run defense that ranks 47th, including 104 in total defense. I'm giving the edge to Arkansas in this head-to-head matchup. I know Freeman pretty much hammered in his press conference the need to prevent vertical escapes through the B gap and stressed that they can't just be spying on the quarterback. That's not going to be enough. The Irish have to be disciplined in the rush lanes, have better tackling and communication in the secondary. What do you guys think?
Well, for me, it starts with, just what you said about Coach Freeman saying, hey, you got to be disciplined in your rush lanes. But the biggest thing is getting to him through the B gaps and getting pressure up the middle, getting in his face, making him uncomfortable. Again, not just coming off the edge, because if he can run downhill, as you can said, he's 6'6", 200. And again, if he's 235, he's 245. Because you guys are usually bigger with that. So it's going to be imperative that the defensive tackles and in the middle of the defense, we got to get pressure there. We get pressure up the middle, that's going to really disrupt what he's able to do. Because right now he's big enough, tall enough, he can stand in the pocket. As long as he can step up and deliver the ball downfield, hey, he's going to do that. So you got to get him off of his marks and not allow him to just stand there and fling it all to the field. And Mark is absolutely right. Do not allow him to step up and take a running lane right up the middle. That's going to require a lot more. Like I said, the discipline is pushing the front, pushing the guards in the center and the guards back, and then keeping a tight edge coming around the edge. And we got edge rushers that can get to him, but we're going to need to get to him through the middle of the defense. And I would love to see us bring some safety blitz, up the middle, because you get that speed that's coming through there. You slam a guy down, slam a defensive tackle down on the center, boom, the guard goes with them, and you get some speed coming in out the back and putting pressure on the quarterback.
Well, they haven't really done that though all season, so that's kind of the problem.
But I don't think they've really tried any middle pressure. I've not really seen any middle pressure from this defense. It's mainly guys trying to come off the edge, and that's it. And they've tried to rush with four guys. TE stunts and TT stunts aren't going to do it. You're going to need to bring some pressure from the linebacker position inside and also from the safety position and bring it up the middle and create some discomfort for them. At least force them out and not allowing the quarterbacks to step up.
Well, I'll just say this about Taylen Green. I thought that Carson Beck was going to be the best quarterback we saw all year, and then Marcel Reed comes in and throws for 360, and he's a dual threat. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, maybe Marcel Reed was the best quarterback we were going to see all year long. And then Ryan Brown drops 3 bills on us. But then I look at this guy. He's, Arkansas has the number 8 offense in the country. They are averaging 552 total yards per game. And, when I look at our defense, the thing we always look at is, how many explosive plays are you giving up? Now, fortunately, Notre Dame has more explosive plays on offense than they've given up. But they've given up 13 explosive plays. That means plays that are 20 yards or more. All 13 of them have been passes. So it gives me pause with this guy, because he's already thrown 12 touchdowns already. And he's going into game 5 for him? So it's really going to be a test. I'm going to say a Hail Mary that Leonard Moore gets in there and is able to play. I hope that they have the full accommodation of guys in the back. But it's going to come down to, like you said, Reggie, pressure up the middle, squeezing the pocket, making it so it collapses on him. And I'm not a big fan of a spy. If he gets outside the pocket, then that's why we have a guy named Drake Bowen who can go tackle him. So, but it's to me, it's shaping up as the toughest matchup of the season when you talk about the explosiveness of Arkansas on offense with Taylen Green and our defense reeling right now.
I think I'm a little bit more worried about USC personally, but this is a very difficult test on Saturday against Taylen Green. The one thing about him, the one thing that I've noticed, if you look back through his career, he's been playing college football a long time. He was at Boise State for 3 years, was with the Arkansas Razorbacks last season. He threw 9 picks last year, and he had 12 fumbles. That was the most of any Power 4 quarterback last season. Now, this year, he hasn't fumbled, so maybe he's due. But he has thrown 4 interceptions, including 2 against Memphis. And one thing that I've heard about and read about just in talking, like I had John Neighbors, the Locked On Razorbacks host, on my show today, and he said the one thing with Taylen Green is he can be very streaky. When he's dialed in, when he's got time to throw, and he starts connecting on a few passes, then it just builds from there, and he can really get into a groove. However, if he struggles, if he has one bad mistake, let's say he fumbles, or he throws an interception, or he misses a wide open guy, those mistakes tend to compound, and then from that point on, he can really struggle. So I think we're going to know how this game is going to go in the first quarter. If Notre Dame's defense can just force him into mistakes, because look, he's going to get his, they're going to hit on some chunk plays, things are going to be all right for them overall. But if they could just get a couple mistakes out of him, I think he's going to get in his own head and then struggle the rest of the way. So that's imperative. Like, they're going to get their yards, they're going to get their explosives, but Notre Dame has to create some havoc on defense, even if they end up allowing, let's say, 28 points in the game. If they can come up with some key turnovers, that should be the difference.
In those losses for Arkansas, turnovers has been the issue for them, one of the issues at least. And you mentioned it, 4 interceptions for Taylen this season, but as a team, they've got 6 fumbles so far in their 4 games. So that is a place where this Notre Dame defense can try to make a difference, try to cause a turnover, get in his head, make some big plays early on. That can make a huge difference. Now, on the other side of this, we're looking at the quarterback battle for Notre Dame. CJ Carr taking on Arkansas secondary. And just, watching CJ now in these first 3 games, it's hard to imagine that there was ever even a quarterback competition with him and Kenny Minchie in the first place. I mean, he really had that confidence. We've talked about it now, and he owned it coming in, and everybody thought, okay, he's the man. And then all of a sudden this fall, a little bit in the spring and then into this fall, it was, well, Kenny Minchie's always making these strides. It's Kenny. And then it was, well, they're throwing interceptions. CJ's throwing interceptions, but it's because the defense is so good in practice. It's so much better. And they're going up against one of the best defenses in college football in practice. So all of these narratives have been very interesting to see them play out. But now, of course, we're seeing CJ growing in real time, developing in real time. And against Purdue, he only attempted those 12 passes, and he completed 10 of them for 223 yards and 2 touchdowns. On that first play of the game from scrimmage, I mean, we saw it was incredible. Connecting with wide receiver Malachi Fields, 66 yards on that touchdown. I mean, it was really a glimpse, I think, of what the future of this team is. And it's such a unique position for Notre Dame to be in, where it's such an opposite position of what they were in last year, where it was the offense struggling to figure itself out and the defense was so good you had to rely on the defense to win every game. And now you kind of have the opposite feeling, where this offense is putting up huge numbers and you're thinking, okay, the defense just has to stop the other team, and they're struggling to do that. So we're watching this offense have to outscore everybody. So we'll see if that continues or if they're able to stop it. But Arkansas is ranked 51st in pass efficiency defense, and the same pass defense gave up 353 yards passing to Ole Miss's backup quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, during week 3. So for me, the development that CJ's had, the way that Arkansas's defense has been playing, they're struggling with tackles also. Missed tackles has been an issue for them. I think this is a really good opportunity for CJ Carr. So I do feel like, while Taylen Green has the advantage over Notre Dame's defense, I think CJ Carr has the advantage over the Arkansas secondary. How about you guys?
You go, Reggie.
Again, and I've said this before, you as you watch each game, as he gets more game reps, he gets better. He does a great job of addressing any mistakes from the previous week. He makes corrections. And that's going to be the thing about it. He gets better every week. And as he gets better, he gets dialed in. The thing I'm looking for is let's go downfield some more. That's working for us. He's a downfield passer. He has good accuracy on when he throws the ball downfield. Let's force those safeties. If they want to sit at 10 yards deep, let's beat them over the top and get them to move back. But that said, I love the ball. He throws a beautiful ball. He throws a beautiful ball, and he has targets. Malachi Fields. I'd like to see more of Jaden Greathouse, but I'll take Eli Reardon. And who knew we have 2 tight ends? Did y'all know that? We are aware we have 2 tight ends.
In fact, Ty Washington is returning back to Arkansas.
Now, I would not be offended, and hopefully Coach Denbrock is listening. Two backs, 2 tight ends. Is that offensive? Does that offend anyone? I apologize about that. But let's pound the rock and then play action and let this man do his thing. I'm very comfortable where CJ is right now because from where he was last year to this year, the young man is just steadily getting better game after game. And he does a great job of taking care of the football. After those first few, had some bad throws, but you're seeing the reduction in those bad throws every week. And as long as that's happening, this offense will continue to improve, especially with those 2 running backs back there. And, and people talked about it. But again, I was the beneficiary of it myself. When you have receivers that are unselfish and making blocks downfield, that's how you turn a 10-yard run into a 50-yard run. And with those guys, just getting out there, getting after down the field with the receivers and the tight ends, I mean, right now we're going to have to score some points. But I'm really thinking, or at least hoping, that we can get pressure up the middle and we can just put up 40 points just to put up 40 points. We don't need to put up 40 points just to win.
Well, yeah, we're all familiar with the phrase "stay in your lane." I don't think the coaches knew what lane to put CJ in the first game, and so they thought they had to do a little Riley Leonard stuff. And Reggie, you said don't do that, but it took them 3 games to figure out that dude can throw the ball downfield, and if somebody's going to run it, you got 2 very talented running backs that can run it. No more RPO, just hand the ball off. We got an offensive line that I like how you say it, Reggie. When they have that flat back, they can really do some damage. So I think the offense found its personality. And so I like this matchup for CJ because there will be opportunities to go downfield, especially if they're able to generate a good running game, which always makes those safeties come up and commit. And, he may not have to throw it more than 15 times again because of the running game. But when he does throw it, he is precise. He has good placement with the football. And right now, you can see he's very confident in his ability to get the ball downfield. So you got to ride that horse till you kill it.
Isn't it so unfortunate that for about 8 seasons, if you go back to 2017, Notre Dame always had, at minimum, a really stout defense. Some years it was elite, like last year in 2024. And the one key piece that they were missing the entire time was a truly elite quarterback. They had good quarterbacks during that time. Like, I loved Riley Leonard, loved Ian Book, Notre Dame's all-time winningest quarterback. But CJ Carr just looks like he's going to be different than all those guys. And he really has a great opportunity ahead of him to live up to all the lofty expectations that he had as a recruit. But on the other side of the ball, Notre Dame's defense decided to just completely collapse compared to what we have seen in the past. So it's unfortunate timing, but if this Notre Dame team were 3-0 at this point in the season, I don't even think it'd be crazy to say that CJ Carr would his name would be mentioned in some Heisman conversations. Like, he's been flying under the radar, which is pretty surprising. One, considering he's a Notre Dame quarterback, and two, his grandfather is Lloyd Carr. But this could be the game where that all changes. And you think about all the great college football games that are going to be on tap this Saturday. This is the first game that everyone is going to be watching in that noon window. If he goes out there and he has a huge game and it's a shootout and he ends up leading Notre Dame to victory, yeah, they're going to run the ball. But this is a great opportunity for Carr to really get his name out there. Like, we as Notre Dame fans, we've been excited about him for a long time. But if he looks like he's been playing the past couple of games, if he plays like that on Saturday with the whole world watching, I think everyone's going to be talking about CJ Carr for this game.
I hope so. And boy, I'll tell you what, he just has the IQ also. It's interesting to listen to him in the post-game press conference, and he's explaining what he's seeing out there and the trust that the coaches are giving him and allowing him to make those RPOs and make decisions. It's been really cool. And I think it's going to be fun to listen to him in these post-game wins. That's a big difference too. A win is a much better post-game press conference than a loss, we all know. Well, let's take one more break. And when we come back, we're going to look more at specific matchups between Arkansas's wide receivers and Notre Dame's banged up secondary. And do the Razorbacks have a chance at containing the Irish run game? I know what Tyler's answer is to that. We'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Jadarian Price's kickoff return for a touchdown against Purdue. Even though the Irish offense had no trouble moving the ball all day, the team needed a spark after the long rain delay, and Jadarian Price came through. Not to mention the fact that Price had 3 rushing touchdowns on top of that, as the Irish ran away from the Purdue Boilermakers 56-30. That's what keeps fans and players alike moving forward, always chasing the next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers Arkansas has and the thin, if you will, secondary that Notre Dame's dealing with. Of course, this today, actually, Marcus Freeman said that Devontae Smith has now been upgraded to probable, but that Leonard Moore is still questionable. So it's not looking good that Leonard Moore will be back, but it does look good that Devontae Smith is going to be back at that nickel spot. One question I want to pose to you guys is the freshman, Dallas Golden. He had an interesting debut, if you will, getting his first start at nickel. Never played nickel before, he said. And so, but he came out, had an interception in the game against Purdue. But they're going to be going against some legit receivers here at Arkansas. Taylen Green's favorite target is Omega Blake. He's averaging 6 catches per game. And then when he's looking for an explosive play, though, he's looking for Rohan Jones. In 3 games, Jones has had receptions of 41, 21, and 62 yards, respectively. And in similar fashion, another one of their wideouts, Jaden Platt, he's caught 8 passes for almost 18 yards per catch. So this is going to be a tough test for the secondary. How do you guys see the secondary matching up with these receivers? We know that they're going to be trying to go downfield with this ball, and they have some issues in the secondary right now, let alone health issues as well.
Well, unfortunately, it's been put on film that Notre Dame can be exposed throwing the deep ball or intermediate routes. So it's sort of like, there's blood in the water. And so teams are going to take their shots. And whether Notre Dame plays man or plays zone, as much as we talk about the secondary, I still feel like if we can get adequate pressure up front, then we can deal with freshmen in the secondary. It's the freshmen in the secondary, they earn the right to be there because they've got, a lot of depth, and those players can play. But like Marcus Freeman said at halftime last week, they got to marry the pass rush with the coverage in the defensive backfield. But make no mistake, Omega Blake is the guy they want to go to. You mentioned 3 other guys, and I think that the next pass rusher has gotten 11 catches in 4 games, something like that. But they want to feed Omega Blake, and so whoever is on him, I'm thinking it's going to be Christian Gray, has got to be locked down on him. And I'm not opposed to doubling Omega Blake and make one of those other receivers try to beat you. But make no mistake, the secondary for the Irish, they are marked men now, and teams are feeling like we got a chance. But I think that plays right into Notre Dame's hands. If I was the defensive back, I would want that challenge. I would want to have been there where we didn't look good for a couple games, and now I'm being doubted. I would want a chance to be able to prove myself, and I think that will be the demeanor of the secondary, especially a Marcus Freeman coach secondary.
Well, I want to see these guys, be physical at the point of attack. I'm kind of over us playing off. I think we have big, lengthy defensive backs that want to get their hands on a receiver, and I think that's a part of between that marrying the back end and the front end is getting the front end to get pressure. Don't give a free release to a receiver. You make them earn every time they come off the ball. You make them earn it. And I think getting hands on the receiver is going to be critical because it knocks them off their routes. It knocks the timing off. And we have the physical and the length at the cornerback position to do that. So, getting pressure up the middle along with getting hands on the receivers when they're coming off the ball, putting pressure on them is going to make a big difference in what we're able to do defensively against Taylen Green and Omega Blake and the rest of this Arkansas offense.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who starts for Notre Dame in the secondary because I think right now it's probably safe to say that Leonard Moore is not going to be able to go considering he's listed as questionable on a Thursday. And frankly, none of the things I've been hearing about Leonard Moore and his ability to play this weekend have been super positive in the past 24 hours. Maybe something changes here before game time. I think every Notre Dame fan is certainly hoping so. But if Devontae Smith is going to be able to go, that's huge. And last week, Adon Schuler wasn't able to go in the first half against Purdue, and that's when they gave up all those points. So they were starting 2 true freshmen at corner with Mark Zachary in the field and Dallas Golden at the nickel. And then they had a redshirt freshman in Tay Johnson starting at safety. Now it looks like Tay Johnson is probably going to start opposite Adon Schuler this week, which I like. I think he's a lot better in coverage than Jalen Stroman. But if Devontae Smith is starting at nickel, that could allow Dallas Golden to then replace Leonard Moore at boundary because that is actually what he had been practicing at throughout all of camp. Marcus Freeman said they didn't even move him to nickel until Monday of Purdue week. So you think about his performance, that's pretty damn impressive. I know he gave up that touchdown at the end, but he also had a highlight reel interception to go along with that. So maybe he's even better at his natural position or the one that Notre Dame has been training him at boundary. And then Christian Gray can go back to the field. I would feel a lot better about that setup with that secondary going into this game than I felt last week going against Purdue. So it's a minor change. Obviously, you'd love to have Leonard Moore out there, but based on what I saw from Dallas Golden, I think that the sky's the limit for him, and he could end up having a big role on Saturday if that's how it shakes out.
I have to say that touchdown he gave up, where was the safety? I mean, the safety looked like he wanted to be over the top, and he took a couple of steps over there and stopped. He was in trail technique. When you're in trail technique as a defensive back, you're expecting over-the-top help, and it did not come. So I'm not so sure he wasn't where he was supposed to be, and then the safety didn't come over and give him the help that he was supposed to get. That's just my little 2 cents. So
I agree.
Well, Alan, you said that about kind of they've given people conversation. People know what to look for. They know what to expect. And something that I thought was interesting this weekend was that the Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman said that he actually had a lengthy conversation with Purdue head coach Barry Odom. They used to coach together. He was the defensive coordinator at Arkansas before he made his rounds, and now eventually made head coach at Purdue. But you can imagine what that conversation was like, especially for Odom, who was a defensive-minded coach. I'm going to guess that he probably gave Sam Pittman some insider intel on ways to try to beat Notre Dame's offense and that the receivers and utilize what they can in their secondary.
Shame on him trying to gang up on Notre Dame, but it's not the X's and O's sometimes, it's the Jimmies and Joes. And I mean, they can talk scheme all they want, but it's going to come down to the players making plays. And right now, our offense has those Jimmies and Joes, and the defense is just going to be their turn come Saturday.
Well, the last of our matchups, really quickly, let's talk about one of the best running back duos in all of college football, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love. They were awesome against Purdue. It was what everybody has been waiting for to see. They're just kind of building and getting better and better. Price, let's see here. He added 9 carries, 74 yards, 8 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Of course, he had that 100-plus yard kickoff return for the touchdown. And then Jeremiah Love, 14 carries, 157 yards, 8.3 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely loved the post-game press conference with Jadarian Price. Just personality galore and so unselfish. And that's been talked about so much at this point. But, even joked that, it was just like, Audric Estime, and they had the rain delay, and he came out and had that touchdown. And he said, the only thing, I didn't have a hot dog, guys. But I think we definitely have to say that this is where Notre Dame has a huge advantage in this game. They've struggled against stopping the run. Arkansas's defense has. And then when you have 2 running backs like Notre Dame has and their ability to really control a game, I think this is one of those spots where you can fully expect Notre Dame to take advantage there.
Well, the best defense sometimes is a great offense. And having these 2 running backs, when you run the ball, you control the game, you control the clock. You actually, when you can consistently run the football against the defense, you take away their manhood. I mean, you break their heart when you continue to run. And right now, we've looked at the long runs that both Love and Price have had. But right now, Jeremiah Love is averaging 5.5 a carry. And Jadarian Price is averaging 6.9 a carry. That just means consistently getting first downs, consistently taking time off the clock, and ultimately putting points on the board to put the pressure on that Arkansas offense and maybe put the defense in a situation where they can pin their ears back and go after Taylen Green. But it's such a valuable piece of the offensive attack to have these 2 running backs, be able to move the ball down the field. And if they are able to do what they should do with this particular offensive line, they should be able to control the game and control the clock.
Real quick, just to interject a couple more numbers for you. Arkansas's defense is ranked 87th against the run. Against Memphis, they allowed 290 rushing yards on 41 carries. That's 7 yards per carry, and gave up 3 rushing touchdowns.
Oh yeah, and they're averaging giving up 157 rushing yards per game. So if I'm a running back, I'm licking my chops.
Well, you look at both these guys, and again, the talent is undeniable. But the biggest thing that I've seen is better execution up front. You can have the best offense, best running backs, best quarterback in all of college football. But if you don't have guys opening holes, and part of that is, their patience in setting up the blocks, and I've seen more, they've moved away from that RPO game a little bit more and more of the wide zone, inside zone. And it's, their footwork has been really good in terms of setting up the blocks to where they get the defenders, in particular linebackers, to overplay and overcommit. That gives you gives you the backdoor cut, or if they don't overcommit, they bounce it. But you see guys getting a hat on a hat, and I cannot stress enough the value of having running backs and an offensive line that's able to come off the ball. Against Miami and Texas A&M, I got tired of seeing our guards. You knew when they were going to pull because they're sitting back in their stance, and they were giving it away. But when you see a guy, put their hand in the dirt and they're coming off the ball, the offensive linemen love that. They love that. They love to be the hammer and not the nail. And when you get that going on a consistent basis, you're going to start seeing more long runs. But I think early on, Arkansas is going to stack the box, because I don't think they feel that they can. They're going to need to have more numbers in the box to stop this running game, and that's why I think, again, going over the top, like they did against Texas A&M, is going to make a big difference with this offense in letting CJ Carr air it out. But it starts with the running game. It starts with those two young men in that offensive line coming off the ball and punching somebody in the mouth.
I don't think it matters how many guys they put in the box. I really don't. I think their run defense is that bad, and I think Notre Dame's running backs are that good. I mean, I led today's show by saying I think Love and Price are each going to go for over 100 yards in this one. Watching that Memphis-Arkansas game was pretty crazy. The fact that Arkansas was up 28-10, and normally when you're down by 18 points, how do you come back? You air it out. That is not what Memphis did. They're just like, we're going to keep running it over and over and over again. They had 13 runs over 10 yards, and they had 7 over 15 yards. And this secondary on Arkansas is miserable when it comes to tackling. So I'm sure Love and Price, Notre Dame put out a video this past week, and Love and Price are actively talking on the sidelines basically early on in the game saying, we need to get 6 touchdowns today. And they got it. Price got 4, Love got 2. As a matter of fact, Price was like telling Love, hey, come on out here, get your third. Love waved him off. So maybe they go for 8 in this one. I can't imagine how excited those guys must feel going into this game. And then to Reggie's point, once they start bringing guys up, that's a perfect time to hit Malachi Fields on another post, or maybe Jane Greathouse on a slot fade, because it's been a while since we've really seen him be a big part of this game plan. But I'm sure that Arkansas's entire defensive game plan is going to be about stopping those guys. And, I don't think they will. And when they really get aggressive trying to stop them, Notre Dame definitely has the tools on the outside to beat them over the top.
All right, guys, let's take one final timeout. And when we come back, we'll give our key player of this game. All right, here we go. So take it around the horn. Who are we thinking is going to be a key player today or in this game on Saturday? For me, I don't necessarily think he's going to be the star player of the game, but someone to watch out for. Ty Washington. You touched on it, Reggie. There are 2 tight ends on this team. And Ty Washington, he's coming along. He had just 3 career touchdowns at Arkansas before making the transfer. And he finally got his first start last week, and he got 3 receptions against Purdue. I just think it would be a nice story, right, for him to go into Arkansas, his old school, and to get some playing time and make a difference out there, get a couple of receptions. Maybe he gets a touchdown in the game. Who knows? But I'd like to see that. He says that he loves playing for Denbrock, and I think Denbrock is going to give him an opportunity here.
Oh, wow. Who should I pick? Who's gonna be a breakout player? I always advocate for the running backs. And I know I'm supposed to pick one, but I'm going to pick that 2-headed monster, which is Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. It's just, I can't shower enough praise on them. And, of course, Reggie and I talked about you need to have the offensive line do their thing, but all they need is a crease and they can make something happen. And, sometimes statistics tell you the truth and sometimes statistics lie, but Price averaging 6.9 a carry, and Jeremiah Love averaging 5.5. You can't help but, lean on those two horses to take you where you need to go. They will, with that running game, control the clock and control the game.
For me, it's the offensive line. And again, I know I'm not going to say one player because that's the unit that has a symbiotic relationship. The offensive line has to be one. And when they're on their game, when they're in sync, and when they've got that mind meld going, that is the most critical group. And I want to see them take it start to finish and dominate this defense. As Tyler said, we have the run game, we have the defense is not good, and I think they should take a little more effort in saying, okay, we are the linchpin in this offense, because without us, you don't get the pass, you don't get the run. So take control. So I'm saying right now, because of the offensive line, we go for 50.
Hey, Reggie, I'm just going to just throw this in there. This is going to be a big front that they're going against. They got the weights across the front, 275, 278, 323. And then they got this guy named Ian Jeffrard. He's 387 pounds.
Woo!
So that's a big front that they're going after. So they will earn their keep if they can move this front.
I'd like to see a man who weighs 387 pounds try to catch Jeremiah Love and Shadarian Price. That'd be a funny visual. I think we might see that a little bit. We've had a lot of people pick offense. I'm going to have to switch it up. I'm going to go defense. And you know what? I'm going to take a Don Schuler because he's had a relatively quiet season so far. I mean, the most notable play he made was that targeting against Texas A&M. But it was clear that when he came off the field in that game and in the first half against Purdue, they missed him. And when he came out there, I don't think it was just his presence that changed things for the defense, but it certainly helped, especially on the back end there. So I think he's going to come through with a big play in this game. I already talked about it before. Arkansas is going to score some points. This is going to be a shootout. I think the over-under right now is 64.5. But defensively, it might just come down to one player making one play. And for the past 2 years on Notre Dame, you knew that in a big moment, Xavier Watts was going to come through with a pick or a forced fumble or something. We don't know who that player is yet on the Notre Dame defense that's going to come through with the big play when they really need it. They've had 2 drives already where the defense could have forced a stop, could have changed the outcome of the game. Hasn't happened yet. I think a Don Schuler comes through in this game with a big play, whether it be an interception, strip sack, if they ever decide to blitz a defensive back. He's going to be the difference in this game. He's going to come up with that critical play at the end of the game, and that's why Notre Dame is going to win.
Tyler, you got me fired up now. I'm excited. You got me feeling better about this defense and about Don Schuler coming up, having a big game. Reggie, I want to get your thoughts just really quick on the offensive line. You're talking about that as your key to this victory. How do you like the progress that the offensive line has made? Because that was a big sore spot, really, to start the season, and some complaints that these guys were getting beat. Do you like the progress that they're making and moving forward?
I definitely like the progress simply because they've changed up how they're being used. For early part, it was a lot of the swing passes or the screen game. They were constantly catching and being hit. They were the nail and not the hammer. And in this game against Purdue, you saw guys coming off the ball and moving defenders. And that's why it's so critical for offensive linemen. You want to be the one hitting someone, not getting hit. That's your whole purpose, is to go dominate the line of scrimmage. And they've done a much better job of that. Now it's just a matter of, hey, can we sync up and get those double teams and really start driving guys off the ball and creating those lanes for Jeremiah Love and Shadarian Price to come in and have a big game.
All right. Well, as we wrap things up, just one thought to kind of leave you on too. Sam Pittman, I've talked a lot about him, the head coach at Arkansas. He said there were 3 things that this team needs to fix immediately if they have a chance at beating Notre Dame, and it's tackling, better second half run game, and offensive turnovers. And they're having a terrible trouble with missed tackles. They gave up that 64-yard touchdown run. That was the go-ahead touchdown run for Memphis last week. In the second half, their run game, they've been averaging or rushing for 270 yards in the first half of games against Ole Miss and Memphis, but only 122 combined against those teams in the second half. And then turnovers, I mentioned this earlier, 4 interceptions, 6 fumbles. I think all 3 of those spots are places where Notre Dame is really going to be able to capitalize and get the win in Fayetteville. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening. That's a wrap on our Arkansas Preview Squad show. Please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you enjoyed the show today, please give this video a like if you're watching on YouTube, or rate the show 5 stars and leave a review if you're listening to the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Go Irish.